Grounds in the Northwest. President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected there and he will deliver his address. Let's now cross back to SABC News reporter Sellwane Khakhau. A very good morning to you again, Sellwane. It's over to you.
Welcome back to Vyrburg Showgrounds. So we are still giving you a rolling coverage for the main event for Women's Day celebration. Quite a lot of issues being here in the spotlight, various issues including challenges that women are facing, including gender-based violence, which is one issue that is coming up from many of the interviews that we have done so far. Remember the recent study that was done by an independent study that was done by KPMG, which indicates that the gender-based violence cost South Africa about 28 billion rand to 42 billion rand per year. 28 billion rand to 42 billion rand that the country spends on these issues of gender-based violence in the country every year. This includes things like court cases, paying for trauma counseling for victims of physical abuse and sexual offenses, also paying for medical bills for the victims. So this is a lot of money that the country is spending on issues of gender-based violence. My next guest is the Director General for the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Vusumusi Mkhize. Gigi, thank you very much for joining us. Tell us about these issues that we are talking about. Budgeting, resources, how much are we losing as a country because of gender-based violence, and what can be done?
Maybe first, thanks very much. And firstly, I think we must be able to understand that the violence against any woman, even if it's one woman, you can't even link that to the cost, because it's about a human dignity whose identity is being attacked. But it then translates to how the world sees South Africa as a nation that is abusive of its women. And therefore, if you look at that independent study that you've just referred to, it's just as symptomatic of what could have been invested in the growing and developing the country. But instead, those resources are diverted now to deal with what is a preventable thing. But we are coming from a history of apartheid, very violent society, and women were multiple oppressed, because they were oppressed both as women, just upon the basis of gender, the serious issue of customs that were harmful to women, and also thirdly, the apartheid regime itself in terms of its laws and practices. So now you see this then getting translated from generation to generation because of wrong socialization of males, thinking that women are their possessions instead of treating women as equals. So the cost is huge. One may not be able to quantify it, and it's difficult to say whether KPMG is correct on their figures or not. But I think the message is we need to stop this scourge. We need to fight against it, and it's only through education that we can be able to do that, both in terms of the boy-child socialization, but also in terms of empowering young girls so that they are independent. Because if you become dependent, you stay in an abusive relationship because you're thinking, I need food, it's for my children, and yet you are the victim of the worst battering by someone that's supposed to protect and love you. But if young girls are educated, are empowered, they can easily walk away because they are not dependent on someone else. That is one of the key things. And I think that is why government is insisting on the issue of upbringing properly both boy child and a girl child.
Yeah, DG, I like how you mentioned that one of the critical things that have to be done in fighting the scourge of gender-based violence is educating both girls and boys, because certain reports out there and organizations that fight for women's rights and gender equality do say that as a country it's going to take more than media slogans and billboards to fight the scourge of gender-based violence. And surprisingly, or not so shockingly actually, is that there's also criticism that there isn't enough budget or budgeting that is being allocated to dealing with the scourge of violence. And what needs to be done? Because so much money already we mentioned that is going to issues of gender-based violence. What does the country need to do? Do we need to reprioritize when it comes to budgeting?
Look, it is sometimes it is to throw money to the problem. We must understand that the money is not the solution. It's what we do with the intervention that government make. Government have very strong programs which we regard as gender mainstreaming, which if you quantify those across departments, it was not just treated as a responsibility for Department of Women. It is across government. So if you were to quantify that, you will realize that there is enough resources. The question is, how do we harness them together so that they fight this scourge as a collective, not be seen as a work by the police or as a work by the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability, or by Department of Arts and Culture on social cohesion and nation building. It is a massive program. Every department has a contribution it's making. So in terms of throwing money to the problem, we are doing that as government. The question is, how do we change the mindset of our people? And that then has to deal with the decolonization of the mind, to people to understand that the rights of women are human rights too, but also that legislation is impactful, so that those who are abusive of women are finding themselves having very little room either in society, or that justice will be instant, not justice delayed, justice denied. Because then the perpetrators of that violence, they will think, I can do it again. They get a bail, they go and they get sentences, but then they get parole. There must be, in terms of the law, we must be both preventative but also punitive for those who pursue this evil act. Okay. So my understanding is, in terms of government throwing money to the problem, and as you can see, the president himself is championing this program of anti-violence against women. That's why he had that convention, and women again said, these are the things we want you to do. Now President Ramaphosa have said, put concrete measures that I can see you are doing. You are taking action, not having slogans, not just throwing money to the program. What are the tangible things that we're going to do as government to fight that?
Okay, and DG, let's take this opportunity. The SABC has found itself in an unfortunate situation where it is going to be unable to broadcast the PSL matches. And what is then going to happen? Because we know that the Minister for Sports, Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, has been trying to mediate between and try to help come with solutions. Has anything been put on the table? What can the viewers out there relying on the SABC know with regards to that?
Minister Mthethwa did indicate that he was deeply saddened by the turn of events, and that's why he has already, together with Minister and Minister Abrams, met with SABC board. We had a very fruitful meeting, but they provided their perspective on what caused this impasse. We are also now arranging a meeting with MultiChoice, which is people that are responsible for SuperSport. They have the CEO. We were very happy that the CEO indicated that upon his return from abroad, he has contacted the department asking for a meeting with the minister. We will then meet with them. But core to this whole challenge is the issue of PSL. We need the engagement with the PSL Board of Governors, because at the end of the day, it's their constituency that suffers. It's the poorest of the poor. So at this stage, it's very difficult to say when will this impasse be broken. But ministers, the two ministers, Minister of Communications and Minister of Sport and Culture, are working with the three key stakeholders, and I'm hopeful with the way that the negotiations have started, that we're likely to find a breakthrough as long as all parties are willing to that. But unfortunately, for now, we have to live with the situation.
Okay. Thank you very much. The Director General for the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Mhkize, joining us here, telling us that they will find a way forward with regards to that particular issue. For now, studio, it's back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Sellwane. We'll definitely cross to you again in just a moment.